and you have those negative thoughts of, well, that's not what I sound like, or that's not what I look like, or I'm so fat, or that's so stupid, or I hate my nose, whatever, right? Like whatever it is that pops in your head, and you think that's not what I look like. Here's the truth. It's exactly what you look like. It's exactly what you sound like. You're the only one not used to it. So congratulations, because that wonderful you has built relationships in companies and have people that love you, being that person you just saw. So just accept it and keep moving forward.
So welcome, Paula. Thank you so much for joining us today for episode 1 of season 2, Patent Pending the podcast. We're super excited to have you here. Can you start out with just giving our listeners a taste of who you are, what you've been up to in the world most recently, and what you do at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm honored to be the season launcher. That's pretty exciting. So yeah, thanks for having me for sure. I have a long history. I'll make it very short for you. I'm a hairdresser by trade. So for the last 17, almost 18 years, I have been in the beauty industry. Most of which I did, take clients behind the chair. So I'm very versed in the one-on-one interactions. With that being said, for the last, I would say about 15 years. I was also, you can consider me like a coach or a consultant for the beauty industry. And a lot of focus on like the yes, you can, positivity, a lot of salon systems, things of that nature, really technical stuff for hairdressers. But what you have in the hair industry is a lot of, unfortunately, there was a lot of negativity poured into the hairdressing industry for years and years about, hairdressing for girls that aren't smart enough to do other things. You have a lot of hairdressers that were told, don't do this. Like, this was a bad choice. Like, what are you doing with your life? I was one of those. I was not encouraged by my, by the people that surrounded me in my schooling system. And so I decided to be a hairdresser anyway, and realized that this was a group of really intelligent people. It was a unique type of intelligence, not usually the one celebrated in the traditional school system. The creatives, they want to touch things with their hands and really get in there. And so it became a passion project of mine to really celebrate that intelligence, to really empower these creatives. And that's what I spent the last, 15 plus years doing, on a consultant coaching level. So we also supply salons. I'm a distributor where we manufacture really awesome high-end hair care. And then as of recent, I am a mommy now. So we spent about 8 years trying to have kids unsuccessfully, had a couple unsuccessful adoptions, kind of veering into the personal life here. And we had a successful adoption. He's 4 now. That's Waylon. He's our oldest. And then I had 2 surprise pregnancies in a row, like boom, boom, mom. So I have 3 kids under the age of 4 right now. It's a wild ride. And you can hear them a little bit probably in the background as we go through this. And it really sparked my additional passion, which is what I'm launching, called Inclusive Bookshop. And it's really merging those 2 areas of my world together. So those 2 passions are uniting in some kids' books. It's odd how many kids' books are like oddly negative. Like, don't forget to brush your teeth. When really that's not what the brain does. The brain needs to hear, remember to brush your teeth every day. And it's for the adult and the kid. That's the way we should be speaking to ourselves. And then in addition, because of I was a foster mom as well, I have an interesting family dynamic visually. I always had a hard time finding books that were multicultural in nature that looked like my family. And it's crazy because the hairdressing industry is known for being oddly segregated still. And where you get your services is kind of based on the color of your skin. Not always true, but unfortunately it is a thing. And then all of a sudden I noticed the kids book industry is the same way, and I'm like fighting against it. Like, no, this isn't what real life is like, not at all. And so that's where Inclusive Bookshop is coming from. It's a brand new passion project. So lots of transitions in my life to kind of go with the theme of what's going on. And I celebrate each one.
That's really awesome. I think that it's great how you were able to tie over that aspect from looking at both of these areas from a positive light versus instead of a negative light, which it more often is looked at within. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's carried over into like the foundational practices of building your business, and just a little bit about Inclusive Bookshop and the positive light that you've created with that?
Yeah, for sure. From the get-go, I've always wanted to write kids' books. So there's just a little bit of, I think there's a little creative artist inside all of us. And if we don't get that creativity out, it really can hinder like the way our mind processes things. I truly believe art must our bodies. And for some people, they murals. I'm actually, even though I'm a hairdresser, I'm not artistic in that way. My creative mind beats to a little bit of a different tick. And so no matter what, the books had to be created. That was for me, for sure. And then when you create something, there's all this anxiety of when you share it, what if people don't like it? What if they do like it? And of course, the entire mission and vision has always been to celebrate others. And so if you're practicing what you preach, right? Like you have to get that out there. So I began, the craziest thing is I actually just began researching. I went where everybody goes, the most trusted source on the planet, and that's Instagram, right? And I just started, looking at different illustrators. I can't draw, I can't. And it's the illustrations are such an important part of this project. And I found this amazing illustrator. She happens to live in Berlin. She's from Transylvania, of all places, which is crazy. Like, so cool. And we are two peas in a pod. We've kind of become buddies through this process. So I inboxed her and I was just like, do you ever like do this type of thing? And she does. She's never done a kid's book before, but she's done illustrations for like pediatric dentists, and she does a bunch of stuff for herself. She is a graphic designer by nature. And so we began Instagram love. And she absolutely so we got on the call and we got on a Zoom. So we're reuniting the world here. And we talked about, it was really important to me that her visions matched mine, as opposed to I didn't want her to just be able to take instruction. I wanted her to believe in what we're doing. And whether this book hits millions or a couple hundred, it doesn't matter. I think the belief is there in the pages. And I'm truly a big supporter of wherever you put your money, money has power. And I need to transfer that power to people that believe similar to me. So as I'm hiring her and as we're talking, she gets it. The celebrating intelligence, the multicultural approach, just as a normal thing. Like when you flip through the book, having multicultural families, just not even a big deal. Like that's just what life really is. So why are we not seeing it on our pages? And so it's been amazing because she's had a bigger vision and of the visual than almost even I have. So it's been an awesome partner. And right now we're about 4 or 5 pages in. We're going to launch. We're going to do a crowdfunding to finish the project. And then when it comes to Inclusive Bookshop, I was really excited to partner with the publisher I'm partnering with, because they allow these really amazing, robust shopping experiences on the personal website. So I can actually go through their entire catalog of other creative authors. And I'm going to be collecting other books that I didn't author for the website. So as you go to inclusivebookshop.com, you can shop different like cooking categories to help stretch your mind culturally. You can shop other kids' books, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. So everything you see on Inclusive Bookshop will be about either positivity or celebrating other cultures, or really a combination of both.
That's awesome. I want to go back a little bit because it sounds like, so part of it sounds like the Inclusive Bookshop has really been like the combination and culmination of a bunch of things that you've been through in your life and different, paths that you've gone down. So just going back to the unique intelligence that you really discovered in being in the hairdressing industry, it sounds like you were such a warrior for that. And I just want to hear a little bit about how that came about. You said you were working in the hairdressing industry. You started to notice that. What was that kind of realization like? And then what was it like getting into being such an advocate for that?
Yeah, for sure. So I always thought I was smart. I have been gifted with natural confidence that was probably misappropriately placed. So I always thought I was really smart and I did fine in school. But there were plenty of things that were taught to me that I didn't get. Still to this day, my husband will make fun of me. I genuinely struggle adding up a tip. Like, you know how you want to add, like, oh, I want it to equal $35 equal. Like that, like my brain doesn't do it. And I'll try and it'll be the wrong answer and I'll have to try again. Like I just give everybody $12. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I just don't know. I know it's enough more than for my salad I ordered, right? And so and it's funny because he's naturally really gifted mathematically. And that's a type of intelligence that's really celebrated, and I'm going to bring him into this conversation a little bit as well because he's been in the restaurant field. So there you go. There's another example of a bunch of really smart people whose intelligence might not have been celebrated properly as they went up in school. He spent 15 years in that industry and then spent, I don't even know how many years now, in the professional construction world. And you should see what these carpenters can do. And these concrete guys, like it's insane the math that they do and the art that they're creating. Again, probably not the type of guy or girl for that matter that was celebrated in school growing up. And it's just something that I've noticed. And for the most part, I've noticed it because I didn't feel it. And so I'm looking at these other adults and they're saying these negative things about themselves. They're repeating like the hairdressing is for dumb girls. They're repeating these type of comments and they're saying, well, I'm maybe not smart enough to do that. Or that would be, yeah, something for somebody else. Like, oh, I wish. And I'm just looking at it, I'm thinking, well, why not you? I didn't get it. And so it really was falling on these dumb ears for years in my early 20s. I just didn't understand why people weren't trying. Like, why would you just not try? And it turns out there's a reason, and so, and I guess that's the evolution of where it came from. And for the most part, this entire crusade has been personal. It's been one person at a time. It's just simply been my approach to life. And it's really getting, I mean, I've been on plenty of, stages at hairdressing industry events and we've done plenty of coaching. So it's gotten its voice for sure, masked in hairdressing technique and salon systems for years and years. I say not masked. We're pretty vocal about it, right? We believe hairdressers are intelligent and powerful for sure. If you live in the Midwest, look up Cool Beauty Consulting because we can service you. But it's really given its light through my voice only because I have amazing partners in that company. But through my voice only in Inclusive Bookshop. And that's what's amazing about owning your own thing is you can say it your way and either people are going to like it or they're not. And if you don't, that's fine. You don't have to be one of my people. And it's been really important to me because as a hairdresser, we often look a lot different than our clientele. If that makes any sense. We've got the weird bright purple hair, we have tattoos all over our body and it's cool. And like then this, super normal suburban soccer mom with a bob loves it, and she wants us to give her amazing highlights and sit in our chair because I do think even if that's not what she wants to look like, there is often a respect and a celebration of having that type of creativity in your life and kind of, rub off on you in its own little way. And so I truly think even though on the bookshelves right now, there aren't a lot of multicultural families, I do think that the normal suburban beige world that we think isn't going to love it is going to love it. I think a lot of products are created hoping, you fall into the stereotypical gaps when I actually think there's a lot more celebration for the not stereotypical and big companies are missing out. So, enter the small guy. And to kind of put a note on it, because if you look at kids' books, you can find plenty of books that showcase multicultural children together. That's easy. I'm talking about families. To be very clear, white mom, black dad, mixed babies, obviously celebrating adoption, obviously celebrating foster care. It's just what my family looks like and what my friends look like, and it's not in books. And that's what the visuals are going to be. The messages are positive. The messages are engaging, and that's where we blend it together.
I love everything you're saying. I think that all makes so much sense. And it's really beautiful to just see your confidence shine through in all these different areas of your life. So kudos to you for being able to like capitalize off of that and build a business and, just hone in on those gifts that you've naturally been given. That's awesome to be able to look at your gifts in that light, even when society is pressing all of these stereotypes on you. Like, this is what happens in this industry. This is what happens in that industry. And that's what you want to do with your life. Like, how have you ever overcome those fears of judgment when they do come up, and any sort of like imposter syndrome or things like that that have come up along the way, and remain positive through all of these different projects and journeys that you've been on through your life?
For sure. I mean, I'm really glad you asked this question because kind of with that false confidence I was naturally gifted with, I think I was naturally gifted with, like, I don't have fear. I dive face first into everything. And that doesn't, it sounds like a positive attribute, but it doesn't always work out in your favor. There's actually these really, we could probably talk for an entire hour about the epic fails that I've had. I will tell you a conversation about one once, and it's with this lady that I've worked with for almost 20 years. She said to me, like, how can you be so confident when you mess up that bad? That was her comment to me. And I said, well, her name's Kelly. I said, well, Kelly, everyone saw it already. Like, I can't pretend like the mistake didn't happen. Everybody already knows. So for me, I just feel like it's owning it. And I'm being really vocal. I'll give you an example. The first time a little bit of imposter syndrome or anxiety has actually really come up for me has been with this book thing. And because I was like, if I write kids' books, people might assume I think I'm a perfect parent, and I'm not, like, at all. And I didn't, that made me, it slowed it down. It slowed down the process for sure. And I had to go through that in my head. And so the easiest answer to any type of imposter syndrome, anxiety about, I'm not going to put this project out there, or what if people don't like it, is just to say it. And so when I launched, and this was just recent, I opened my Facebook page for Inclusive Bookshop. So which means you have to click that little button and invite all your friends, right? And it's funny because I was having emotions while doing it. Like, oh, I don't know if I should invite her. I don't really know them that well. Or like, nope, Paula, follow your own advice. Invite everybody, all 1,900 of them, right? Like, you have to do it. So I just did it against my own feelings. I just did it. And I invited every single person in their message. And then I got on a Facebook Live and I said, hey, you got a message from me. Here's why. And I talked about it. And communication and just saying it really cures, or at least quiets enough the internal emotions. Now, I will tell you, I didn't get on there and say, I was super nervous about sending this to some people because I was afraid you weren't going to like it. Like, nobody wants to hear that garbage. What I said was simply what I'm doing. Like, I'm really excited about this. If you're into it, click like. If not, I'm not going to send you something else. It's fine. And then move on. You approach it with like a really positive and confident attitude, even if you're not. There's a little bit of information about that from Amy Cuddy. She did the famous TED Talk. It's like the Wonder Woman power posing, kind of fake it till you make it. And she's gotten a lot of flack from it because people are, well, don't fake it, actually be good. Like, of course you should try hard. But there are times when you are good, but your mind is telling you maybe not. That's when you need to fake it. Get on your Wonder Woman pose, dive face first anyway. And if you mess up, everybody already knows. You know what I mean? Just say, oh, that was a mistake. Come back and try again. And so I guess that's my answer is there are fears that should stop you. I'll give you an example. Don't jump into hot lava. You're afraid you're going to die and burn alive. There are good instinctive fears, and we need to recognize those. You don't want to get hit by a car. You don't want to put your hand in boiling water. Like, there are things that you don't want to do a cartwheel on a roof. Like, there are things. But then there are fears that are holding you back, and they're false. And those, I think you should just dive face first through and have a buddy. I think that's a good idea. You can flesh out ideas through buddies if you need to. The more you do that, though, I think the less you'll need it, because you'll get your confidence and you can just jump right in.
I love what you said about everybody's already seen that. I mean, when you make a mistake, especially when you're in today's society where everything's on social media. That's how you get, so many businesses are online now. It's, our podcast and our everything we're doing is online. And, everyone's marketing is online. That's just the way the world is now. So it really is true that if you make a mistake, so what? Everyone's already seen it. You gotta just move on. And I love that idea. I feel like that's so empowering, and it can feel, the way that you present it is such a positive way. And I feel like sometimes people can get down about that. And it's like, oh, everyone's seen what I did. Everyone saw my mistakes. Okay, well, they saw it. You can't do anything about it now.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to it. Don't be afraid to cry in your car.
Yeah.
Just gonna put that out there. Sometimes it's like we apologize so much for our emotions. Now, there are moments where you need not be crying in front of people. Like, get a grip, hold it together. Just get in your car and then cry. Like, it happens. Like, and it's funny because I'm talking about celebrating mistakes. I don't want to put a fake picture on it that I get upset when things don't work right. It's embarrassing. Absolutely. I feel all of that. And then you cry in your car, and then you fix your makeup, and then you all drive on, and you bring it up. Like, say, for example, I'm telling you that I cry in my car. Like, that's happened. We've all done it. Why are we pretending like we haven't? And it's funny because there are times when you have to hide some emotions, and I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist. My advice would be let them out later, because otherwise they'll sneak up on you. I've cried, yelled at my boss before, like, I don't understand, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't our best moment relationship wise. If I would have gotten it out in the car, it probably would have been a better conversation. So just know, like, the emotions are happening. And when you see someone, especially someone like myself, because I am so bold, I think sometimes people that aren't naturally bold might disconnect from me. Like, she's not like me. So no, girl, listen, I'm crying in my car too. It's okay. And I think the best thing that you can do is put yourself forward. You don't have to mimic somebody else, because that's not genuine. No one's going to be attracted to your mimic. Be you. You might need to be the most outgoing version of you if it's a social media driven thing, or if you're making a video, but just be you. And the great news about it, because I do a lot of speaking coaching too. So if anybody out there is afraid of making a video or a podcast, putting their own voice out there, here's the best advice on the planet. Get your pen out, write it down. Here we go. If you ever watch a video of yourself, or you hear a recording of yourself, and you have those negative thoughts of, well, that's not what I sound like, or that's not what I look like, or I'm so fat, or that's so stupid, or I hate my nose, whatever, right? Like, whatever it is that pops in your head, and you think that's not what I look like. Here's the truth. It's exactly what you look like. It's exactly what you sound like. You're the only one not used to it. So congratulations, because that wonderful you has built relationships in companies and have people that love you, being that person you just saw. So just accept it and keep moving forward. It is you. Now, are you accidentally maybe being more robotic than normal? Sure. Let's casual it up, calm down a little bit, get that excitement get that anxiety turned into excitement, but it is you, and people love you. So you don't have to filter it just because you're not used to seeing it.
Absolutely. And I think that ties in so well to something you said earlier about you just have to find your people, and not everyone's going to be your person. And what you were saying about, Facebook and inviting those people, and the thing you mentioned before that too, about knowing, hey, you didn't receive that well. Okay, you don't have to be one of my people. Move on to the next thing. Like, how have you overcome that? Have you ever come across anything in your journey where you're like, wow, I really needed or wanted that person to be my person, to be my customer, to be my partner, or whatever it was, and then it didn't work out? And how did you get through that?
Oh yeah, there's some pretty big epic fails on this one too. Because false confidence, I just assume everybody's gonna like me, right? Like, then that's not the case. I actually had, and I'm not going to mention any names on this one, but the title would be the international director of sales from a company that we partner with have to give me a personal call because he got a complaint directly about me, about the way I engaged with a customer. And mind you, I wasn't in there throwing F-bombs or anything. I'm trying to sell stuff, and we're trying to connect. And I have an amazing company and we have this amazing story and wanting to help hairdressers and salons. Like my inside integrity of this is pure. Why would you possibly complain? Like, no, did not hit on all cylinders. And so again, it's embarrassing. And so what I said was, oh, well, that's embarrassing. Oh, that's the way I was being heard. I'm so sorry. That was not my intent. And in the moment, think about how much that brings everybody's guard down. That couldn't have been an easy phone call to make for this person. Like they're gonna call, they have to call. I'm in trouble, right? They call and I'm getting in trouble. Like nobody wants to do that. And so for me to respond with, "Oh, that's not good. Oh, that is embarrassing. Oh, I'm sorry." Like it just brings all those guards down. And so be accepting of it. And in the sense of, I'm not perfect. It didn't go well. I didn't do my job right. I guarantee you there will be more people that say no to my inclusive bookshop idea and to the books that I have written. I guarantee you somebody is going to be upset by it. And if their belief system aligns with mine, I want to hear them out. I want to say, I'm sorry. Well, that's not the way I intended it. How can I communicate better? If their belief system does not align with mine, bye girl. That's fine. So that's the filter that I go through. If you're like me and you say no to me, I want to learn from it because I can change. I'm a changeable person. But if this isn't the type of viewpoint that I'm celebrating in my life, then I can just simply say thank you for your input and move on. The hard part about it is letting go of the anger that can be associated with it. Because they're hurting your feelings. And it's funny because the people that don't agree with you sometimes hurt your feelings more than the people that do. Doesn't make any sense, but it's true. And it's just, I think, managing those emotions one at a time. I'm a huge journaler, huge. And so for me, this is probably not the best system. I'm surely not a psychiatrist, but if for my brain, if it's not worth writing out in my journal, like it's not worth that effort with my pen and paper, then my brain's willing to let it go. Like, yeah, I don't even feel like writing about that. Like, and it just goes away. That's for me. Everybody, should have their own process. And I will say I'm a big fan of counseling. I'm a huge, if you're not couples counseling, individual counseling, family counseling. I mean, the brain needs to process information. And so if something that's happening is big enough, and it doesn't even have to be that big, I just mean the emotional impact is big enough, you need to talk to somebody.
That's great about what you were saying. And I definitely agree with that. I'm a big journaler as well. And I think that when you write stuff down, it's processed a little bit differently. And it allows you to kind of go back and look at, what your experience was and what you took from a certain thing that happened in your day and why you had the emotions that you had around it. Can you tell us a little bit about your coaching experience through the hairdressing industry and how you've taught other people to navigate their fears and different transitions that they might be going through in their career?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of transitions into any career. There's pretty obvious ones as a hairdresser. The first is hair school student to someone that actually is charging for their work, right? Like that's, can you please let me cut your hair to give me money for cutting your hair. Like that's a big transition and it's artistic and there's a lot of confidence there. For the most part up front, there's a lot of technical skills that are driven. You need to actually be good at what you're selling and offering, and I think that goes industry wide. It goes for inclusive bookshop. It goes for creating a podcast. If your sound quality is awful and you don't have good questions, well, then it would make sense that your confidence is short in it. You need to learn. You need to learn how to interview. You need to learn how to adjust your interview styles for different people, right? And so up front, when you're new, if you're the ground floor of your business, you need to be better. So if you are having confidence issues with what you're selling, the first thing you do is say, am I good enough to sell it? Now, that's where I think coaches and peers can help, because when you're selling something creative, there can be a false negative confidence. So get it out there. Go get 15, 20, 30 close friends, maybe even a few strangers, and say, is this any good? Would you pay for it? Can I ask you a few questions? I've done that to strangers 100 times at like, checking out at Hobby Lobby. I don't know, say, can I just ask you a question real quick? Like, if I was to blah, 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 what would you say? And I'm not trying to sell you anything, lady, swear. And because people will give you, their honest feedback. And so first thing you have to do is get good. Then you have to get confidence that you're good. The next thing is the struggle between good and great. Because for the most part, the struggle between good and great is a personal one. It's not usually as much about the customer. And I'll give you an example in hair, okay? You could give good bangs to clients for 20 years and they'll never know the difference if they weren't great. They won't. They truly won't. Great matters when you're going to then do a photo shoot on it. Great matters when you're cutting another hairdresser's bangs. You know what I mean? Like, as we can tell. But for the most part, customers just want to look and feel beautiful, and they want it to be easy to style at home. They want it to look close enough to the picture that they brought in. 99% of customers are reasonable, awesome, nice humans. It's the 1% of the weirdos out there that yell at you about their bait. Like, you can't cut them too short. They have to be off your eyelashes, right? Like, you can really start to put bullet points into what does the customer actually expect here. And when you can define that, not always, but often it just needs to be good or very good. Great is for your own soul. And I think identifying that really helps in knowing, like, I can confidently charge $300 for this hair service because it's good. It's very good. And then if I want to self-analyze for exceptionally great, that's on me. I know the customer is really happy. So that's the second transition. So being the beginner, identifying the difference between good and great. And then for me, a lot of what we've done has been service provider turned entrepreneur. So, you're really good at being a hairdresser. Now you want to be a salon owner. Or it happens in all industries. You're an amazing dentist. Now you're going to open your own practice. You're a incredible mechanic, but now you're going to open your own shop. And that is actually your ground floor baby again. You don't know those skills. Running a P&L and a cash flow statement are extremely different than getting the carburetor in the right place. Obviously, I'm not a mechanic. I don't think there's a right place for a carburetor, right? But yeah, so you have to be willing to be a baby again. And for someone that's exceptional at their craft, there's an ego and a confidence that you have to actually bust through, because you have to be willing to be unintelligent about something again. You have to be willing to ask the brand new questions. When you're first out on the floor as a hairdresser, there's nothing weird about, going to another peer and saying, how do you cut hair into a shag? I can't figure it out. But when you've been doing hair 20 years and you haven't asked those questions, to look at another professional and say, I am so sorry, I don't understand why I need percentages on my P&L. Aren't numbers enough? Like, that's humbling when you've been exceptional for so many years. So the next transition is be willing to be a student again. And really, I think we should be students our entire career. So I think for the most part, it would be in those three categories. I mean, I'm learning how to integrate WordPress into MailChimp properly. So as people purchase on Inclusive Bookshop, I can collect their email data. What? What? I don't know what that means. Yeah, I know how to post a blog post, but I've never had to build it before. So you have to be willing to be dumb.
I love that idea of like willing to be dumb. I'm willing to be dumb again, and in a new area. And I think the idea of being a lifetime learner is so important for everyone, everywhere, doing anything, because no matter where you are in your career, there's always something new coming down the line. So, whether you're in a corporate world and, you just have promotions ahead of you, or you're, like you said, someone who has a trade and is deciding to be a business owner, it all involves continuing to learn. And I think that's like one of the most important things when it comes to transitioning into something new. Can you talk a little bit specifically about going from being a creative as a hairdresser to now being a business owner, and how you maintain passion for what you're doing while gaining profit along the way?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a really good question. I'm glad that you put the thought in there of like remaining in your passion while you do it. Because as you transition into building something new and you have to learn all of these new skills, the new skills often have very little to do with the why. Like, why am I doing this? And so I think having the why really concrete in your head and continually writing that out, maybe having it posted, have it in a Word file, put it as your screensaver, whatever works for you. But when you get frustrated learning your new skill, you can come back to, well, why am I doing this? Why is this important enough? Like, why is this going to matter? It's funny because it's a really well-rounded thought as to, transitioning into my new passion of the inclusive bookshop. The why behind it, where it all began, and this is where it all goes back to, the why was, I know so many people that have not picked up a book since they graduated high school. They had no intention of learning anything new or doing anything new. The newest thing that happens, the biggest transition, is becoming a parent. When you become a parent, you're slapped in the face with all the things you don't know, right? Like anything you thought you were good at before has nothing to do with parenting. And so whether you pick up a book on parenting or not, what you are going to do is pick up a book for your kid. Like, that's going to happen. You're going to end up reading to your child, and they're going to want you to read and reread and read and reread and read and reread that same book over and over again. So my original why, the original thought was, if the kid's picking up the book, why can't we intentionally write kids' books that speak to the parent? Because we are in that first 6 years as a parent open. I say 6 years, the entire time, but there's I think this really unique opportunity that our minds are open to learning again. And we can sneak that content into parents' minds through their kids' books, through positive and engaging content that's socially conscious on purpose, because we need to grow there as well. And that teaches, we all want our kids to be better than ourselves. We all do. And so change starts with our kids, and kids have the power to change adults. That's my why. And it does. It helps me understand why I'm learning WordPress coding, right? Because that's frustrating. It does not excite the creativity in my bones, but I need it to work because I need to have more opportunities for parents to grow and learn and engage in order to help our kids in the next generation.
That's so beautiful. And it's such a big part of the responsibility of becoming a parent, just being able to step back again and again, just realize that you don't know everything and you have to be willing to learn and you have to be able to set that example for your children if you want them to turn out better than you. Like I don't think there's many people out there. I mean, maybe there's some that are just like totally too full of themselves, like, oh, like I'm the best thing that you could possibly become, be just like me. Like I don't come across many parents like that. I think you just kind of see them in the movies and stuff, and that's about it. But as far as my personal experience goes with that, it's just like their minds are so new and fresh and innocent, and just being able to influence that in the right way and show them confidence as well as humility, and having that fine balance between things as you're becoming a teacher again and becoming a learner again, a student again, in different ways is so, so important. And I think that ties in perfectly to passions and being able to be creative with your kids and teach them how to develop passions. Do you have any advice around that about, how to ensure that your children maintain and develop passions throughout their life that are aligned with who they really are?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you, we are running smack into the anxiety I had of launching any of this anyway, because questions like this come up. I'm not a great parent. I'm not. I try really hard. That I can guarantee you. Right? So there's effort involved, but that effort doesn't always turn into greatness. And I think that would be my advice. Effort is the advice. It doesn't have to be perfect. You need to analyze and reanalyze what you're doing and keep trying hard. And my kids are little, they're 4, 2, and 1 right now. And so if you have a 16-year-old girl, you need to call somebody else. I don't know. I'm not there yet, right? Like I can only talk to myself as a 16-year-old. But when it comes to the little kids, I've been identifying in myself times where I'm treating my boy like a boy or my girl like a girl. And it's like, well, wait a second. What does that even mean? And why am I doing that? Because for real, like, I don't gender, besides how you sit on the potty, it hasn't mattered yet in my house, right? And so I think just trying to be self-aware and putting effort into it, catching yourself when you're accidentally, labeling or identifying things that might not be true in your children. For example, I could already tell you, like, the natural instincts of some of my kids are different. And they're in the same environment, they're in the same house, but there's a child in my life that's a little bit more brave than the other one naturally. And as I notice that, what I want to do is check myself. And that doesn't mean the other one's scared. Right? All of a sudden we're going to put that label, like, kid number one's brave, kid number two's scared, kid number three is shy. That's not true. None of that's true. That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with what's inside that little bitty body. And I think that would be my advice. Just put a lot of effort in and check your thoughts. And because we're molding young minds, and if you really want them, we have to aim them. We have to teach them not to jump in lava. There are things that are facts. And, sticking to that, I think you could get too open-ended here for sure. Right? Like, we're not jumping off the roof because it looks like fun. Like, looks like fun isn't a good reason. So some of those things, you do have to hold the reins, you do have to aim. And I do think it's our job as parents to help mold and really just keep checking ourselves and make sure we're molding appropriateness. And then if we're wrong, I think you should tell your kids that you're wrong. We apologize to our kids sometimes, not all the time. Let me be very clear, not all the time. But yeah, I've yelled at my kid when it had nothing to do with them. And I know I'm not even supposed to yell in the first place. I'm just being honest, but it happens. And then you come back and you're like, you know what? Mommy was mad about something else. I'm sorry. You're great. Let me take a moment one-on-one with you. Try hard. That's all I can do. And then apologize when I'm off. And then be nice to your spouse or your co-parent or whoever it is that helps you. If you're a single parent and it's your grandma or the neighbor, you're going to be nasty to them for no reason. It's going to have nothing to do with them. So come back to the adults the same way you're willing to be vulnerable with your kids. I've looked at my husband before and I've said, that's on me. That I'm sorry. And it helps. It goes a long way. And he's done the same. Do we always? No. But when you catch it, be brave enough and confident enough to say, that wasn't my best moment.
Yeah, I love what you said about, noticing those differences within your children and encouraging them and not looking at it like a label of any kind. I remember a story that my fiance's mom had told about her daughter. One day, her daughter had just learned to dress herself. And she came out of her bedroom one day in like this completely mismatched outfit. But she walked out of that bedroom with so much confidence and said, like, Mommy, don't I look great? And was like so excited about the fact that she dressed herself. And she always said she looked right at her and said, yep, honey, you look amazing. Great job. And I think that story is just so like strong and powerful, and that like, don't put that label on them. Like they have their own mind and their own things that they're gonna cultivate through their life. And if you stifle that at that age to them, it's so much more powerful than what you even think it is.
At the daycare my kid used to go to, there was a sign on like the 2-year-old door, the 3-year-old door, I don't remember which. And it said something to the effect, it's like handwritten, like the teacher obviously did it. And it said something about, hey, if your kids' shoes are tied funny or their jackets on backwards, please know it's not that we're not paying attention. It's that they tried themselves and we celebrated their success. And so, some mom went in there all hot and hell, I ain't paying attention to my kid. His socks on inside out. Right. It's like, look, after nap time, we let him put his own socks on. Like, it's okay. Like, we are paying attention. And so then it does go back into like checking yourself. Like, what are we really getting all hot and bothered about? What are we really celebrating? What are we really paying attention to? So yeah, I'm glad that you're seeing it too. And it's exciting to me when I see other adults that are celebrating that, because you're like, oh, the fight might not be as strong as we thought. Like, we're all on the same page here. We're just trying hard.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And Katie, everything that you said, it's just funny, like looking back at that story and hearing that now and thinking about how that ties into who Erica has become as a person so much. Like, look at that example of parenting and what she was able to do for her and how confident she is as a woman in the world now. Like, she's accomplished so much, and being able to have that grounded, good foundation that's stable in that way of breeding confidence, I feel like it's so important. So yeah, definitely a great point there. I'd like to hear a little bit more about like how you maintain your big vision for Inclusive Book Club with everything. Like, I think that's just such an amazing vision, and it's so needed in the world. But like, you've already spoke about, imposter syndrome and stuff like that. Could you talk a little bit about your vision and how you maintain that as you go through the process? And maybe we can tie that back into the conversation we were having previously about maintaining your passion as you are going through your work.
Yeah, an additional thought I would have about imposter syndrome, connecting with your passion, and having this all kind of go through, especially when you're starting something new. For me, most of my career has been about consulting and coaching. So someone's already built something and we're looking to pivot and shift and make adjustments. This is actually my first time with a completely blank page. And it is hard. Now, hard versus harder, I don't know. It's new to me. So for me, it's been harder because I haven't done it before. And so that blank page, there's been too many ideas. And there's been a lot of editing of what am I doing here? Wait, what am I doing? Why? Wait, what am I doing? Why? And really going back and thinking, who's my target audience? And why am I doing this? And if any new task that gets put on my plate, if it doesn't help those two thoughts move forward, then I have to stop and edit and say, do I need to spend time on this? Right? Because you can go rabbit hole after rabbit hole with any idea and any project. And it began with, I need to write some books so my bookshelf looks like I want it to and sounds like I want it to. And those are the two things on the creative side. What's it look like? What's it sound like? So what are the words? What's it look like? And so as every time I've kind of get on these wild hairs of this becomes overwhelming, there's too many things to do, I don't understand how to move to the next step, then it kind of has to come out like, why am I doing this? It's always the same question. And when you really go back and identify, if the why is so I make money, it's not going to be strong enough. It's just not. If the why is so I can become popular, or so I can have more Instagram followers, or what, if your why doesn't have an intrinsic internal value, it will not be a strong enough why. Anytime you're overwhelmed or frustrated or anxious about the project moving forward, that why will not sustain you. And it's wild because there are plenty of people that have made billions and billions of dollars on a bad why. I don't know how they did it. I can't give you advice on that. So if you're listening to this, you're like, well, I'm out. Like, all I want to do is make a ton of money. Like, sorry, like that's just not where Paula is coming from in her life or for Inclusive Bookshop. So maybe I won't be a billionaire. Maybe not, but I will be doing something that's fulfilling. And so I do have to make enough money for my family. So what I had to do was look and say, how am I going to schedule this? This is not instinctive thoughts for me. I just like to jump face first into stuff. And when I have so many different passions, because I am still completely full-time at Cool Beauty Consulting in the hairdressing industry as a manufacturer, and we have enough goals and dreams to fill my entire life on that side of things. It's not going away and I'm staying there. But I have this internal passion for Inclusive Bookshop that I must do. Like, it must come out of my soul. So I started waking up early, and I can tell you a book. It's called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, Halelrod, Hal Elrod. And it's honestly not that exciting of a book, but it has created this cult following. And the basics are wake up early and have a routine to it. And that's where Inclusive Bookshop was able to actually sprout its wings. At waking up at 5:30, 6 a.m. and getting extra time in. I had to add extra time to my day. And I had to do it in a way where I still felt like I was honoring my family. So my first thought was, how do I do it in the evenings? That was robbing Peter to pay Paul for me. It wasn't working. Like the kids wanted to sit on my lap, and I can't do this work with my kids on my lap. And I want that time with my kids. So I had to wake up early. If I want it, oh, it's a great quote. You can have it all, just not always at the same time. I was like, that's a good one, because I want it all. I want the money. I want the creative passion. I want the hairdressing industry. I want the kids' books that I'm doing. I want it all. So how do I have it? Well, the answer is not all at the same time. So I had to really ignite my not natural senses of having some patience. I had to get rid of my snooze button and wake up early. And then I had to get it done one bit at a time. And for someone that likes to dive face first into stuff, I don't want to hear any business of getting something done one bit at a time. But if I want it all, that's my only choice. So I had to accept some of that medicine. And I would have preferred to have launched my first book actually this month. That was my goal. October 1, I was going to launch my first book. And guys, I have 4 pages. It's going to launch next year. So that you'd be a little bit more flexible maybe than you're used to is the advice there. And I should probably write that on a Post-it or like tattoo it on my forearm, because I need that reminder personally.
I think that's so important in building resilience. And thank you so much for, highlighting that scheduling aspect, because when you're starting any new venture in entrepreneurship, especially, like, you need to be able to get creative in how you're going to run your day so that you can still find joy in all of the things you want to find joy in. I've had a very similar experience with that, and leaving the corporate world to be home with my kids, and then having like all of these things I'm interested in that I want to do, but I'm like, I don't want to just mom all day. I want to do like the cool stuff that I'm interested in too. But how the hell am I supposed to do that with like this one running over here, this one running over there, that one needs help with their homework? Like, this is wild. I don't know how I'm supposed to divide my brain that way. But I think there's something to be said about like really planning it out and creating more time for yourself in the mornings. There really is magic in the mornings. Like, just being able to have those couple of hours or even 30 minutes before the kids wake up to just be at peace with yourself, maybe have a cup of coffee and kind of set your day, has made such a difference for me personally. And I know many other people who have similar feelings about that as well. But the whole nighttime thing, like, I think it's important to kind of lean into when you're most creative and when you can do your best work as well. And then trying to build your schedule around that, because some people work better at night. I definitely used to be that person. And now I need to be able to work better in the mornings if I want to have time with my spouse and my kids, because he's only home at night. So just being able to, be confident enough to know that you can have what you want and do what you want. You just have to figure out which hours in the day each thing works best and then take it from there. Right.
Yeah,
So
I heard just this last night, I watched this live stream with Serena Williams. And so talk
Mhm.
about an example, right? I mean, she won. Did she win in Australia while pregnant? I don't, it's the story she tells, right? It's so inspiring. And she said this, she said, I will not change who I am unless it's for the better. And I was, dang, girl, like, it was so good, because it's so true, especially with what we're talking about with Inclusive Bookshop, was that is all about celebrating who you are. And so there's this, like, I'm not going to change who I am. And then she adds, unless it's for the better. And it in such a wonderful way, it broke my heart so positively, because she was telling the story about her schedule, and she found out she was pregnant and she had to play. And so she was like, well, how do I make this choice? Am I allowed to? So of course, she consulted with her doctors, and they said, your only problem will be the heat. If it gets too hot, you can't play at this level while barely pregnant. Like, you just started your pregnancy, you can't do that. And so her status has always been, she plays at a certain time during the day. She plays like basically in the heat of the afternoon. That's her favorite time to play as a professional. And so you talk about people that say, oh, I'm not a morning person. Well, think about competing at that level. And she had to request, which of course she's Serena Williams, so they did it. She played early. She played early and won. She changed who she was for the better in order to have it all. And it's really, and I know it's kind of hard sometimes when you look at someone that's that influential as an example, because it can make you think like, I could have never done that. But it's also really inspiring because she was able to adjust and adapt. I am captain of waking up at 11 a.m. Not anymore. It's not an option. And I really have to applaud you. You said you left the corporate world. I've never been willing to make that change. It's too hard of a transition for me. And honestly, I don't think I want to. Like, I can't let those people go. I'm always a hairdresser in the hair, even though I haven't cut hair in 2 years. Like, I don't take clients anymore. I'm a hairdresser in my core, to my soul. Those are my people. And I'm unwilling to let it go. Yet I have this additional passion that I have to let grow. And so if I want it all, I have to figure it out. And it's always been really inspiring to me to hear stories of people that have been able to leave kind of who they were. Like, that's a really big transition, to be someone new. And it's something I had to celebrate when I stopped cutting hair every day. And it was oddly emotional for me because I just figured, yeah, you have to let go of who you are in order to become who you want to be. Well, that's a fact for me in life until you do it. And then you find yourself crying in your car and you're like, I didn't expect this, you know? And so it was a lot when I stopped cutting hair behind the chair to be a consultant full time. There was a vulnerability in it that surprised me. Even though if someone else would have told me about it, I would have been like, yeah, that's part of it. But when you experience it and it happens, when you make those choices, yeah, it was hard. And so when I launched Inclusive Bookshop, I made a choice that I wasn't letting my past self go. We're going to bring it all together. And now if hairdressers want to buy my book, that's great. They're a lot of the marketplace because they're unique. So they're going to want uniqueness on their bookshelf. But I actually really think that there is a grandma that wants to buy this for her kid too, because she sees them struggling as a new parent and she wants to sneak in that positivity. You know, like, I think that the marketplace is possibly bigger than my own imagination. So hopefully I do a good enough job at the product and the digital assets to get the message out there.
Yeah, you definitely like spoke to me there with that, not wanting to leave necessarily that corporate world. I've been on a bit of a roller coaster for the last couple of months, having just moved from Long Island to Virginia with my fiance. Melissa and I had just launched the podcast and everything, and we're kind of like elbow deep in all of this stuff that's going on. And we moved here, and I was looking for a new accounting job. That's what I was doing on Long Island. I am like this close to being a CPA, so I'm kind of like on that path. Like, that's what's in front of me. That's what I've done. That's what I've been doing. And like you said, kind of those are my people, for like, to a certain extent, because I feel like there's something unique about like doing the same thing for work. And I feel like there's a very like strong bond that gets formed when you're working in an environment with people that are doing the same thing, and you have that connection. And so I remember when I was saying goodbye to my friends from work, I had emotional moments with my best friends from like Melissa from, kindergarten, elementary school. But when I left my work friends, I was like a wreck because I was like, because I didn't have a job here. So I was like, I'm not going to be around like my people. Like, these people know what I do every day. These people do the same thing that I do every day. And there's such like a unique connection there, I feel like. So it is very emotional to leave that kind of environment where you're around people that do the same thing and have the same feelings towards that thing, to move on to something else completely. So I totally feel what you were saying about not wanting to leave that environment completely. And I start my new job on Monday at a CPA firm. So
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, and I think it's really important that I want this to be very heard.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to keep my past and move forward with my future.
Yeah.
And that's a good choice. Other people choose to let go of something and then move on to their future. And that's a good choice. What happens a lot when we're looking for coaches and mentors and advice, the podcast world, the blog world, is what happens is, I'll give you an example. Let's say I was really passionate about being multi-passional. Okay. You can have it all. You can do two things. You can be a consultant and write books. When I create this whole lifestyle around be multi-passional, be like me, be like me. Well, that's not honoring someone else. That's making a new choice. The passion needs to be look into your soul. What do you really want to do? Try hard, be willing to change, be willing to try. That's the message. The message isn't be like me. We share our stories as examples, and I think sometimes accidentally, in trying to convince ourselves that something was a right choice, we might be accidentally leading others to be like us. When really you need to look inside and be the best you. And that's the catch, be the best you. Don't just be you. That we all have our flaws. You don't just have to accept them. You can hone them. You can have that great friend that's like, girl, I don't know if that was your best you today. Yeah, you have people that push you. Yes, you need to be out of your comfort zone, but it is about being you, not necessarily emulating someone else. And so you might be listening to this podcast and just be really self-reflective of, are you getting excited about an idea because it's easy? Are you getting excited about an idea because it's hard and you want to push yourself? Are you just check boxing? Okay, yep, that sounds like me. I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right. Or are you really saying, should I be doing this? It's more about questioning than it is about the answer.
No, that's absolutely true. I think that, it goes hand in hand with kind of rejecting things that you are feeling resistance for. Like if you're trying to do something and it's just not flowing and it's not natural and it's not bringing you joy and excitement, then why are you doing it? Like, are you trying to check a box? Are you trying to please somebody else? Are you trying to just like go the path of least resistance? Like what is happening? And it's not making you happy. And being able to be introspective about that and look into yourself and say, yeah, why am I doing that? Why do I feel this way? Why do I want to pursue this thing? And are these actions throughout my day serving me and my goals or not? And if the answer is no, or if you're confused, or if there's ambiguity around that, being able to step back and figure out why is so important. It's so, so important, because that's when we get lost in life, I think. Any time in life where I felt really lost and unsure of my future or whatever it was that I was doing was a time where I know I wasn't looking into myself and doing my job the right way. So I think we learn that as we go, and being able to learn that from the people around you and surround yourself with people who are aware of those things is so important as you go through any transition with anything you're doing in the world, I think.
Yes, and recognizing that transitions are supposed to be hard. Pain doesn't
Yes.
mean it's a bad thing always. Like, again, hot lava, pain, bad thing. So sometimes, but you do your reps at the gym. That hurts, but there's a reason and there's a why and there's good for it. So recognizing that just because something's hard doesn't mean you don't do it. Does it support your why? Is it needed? Is it necessary? Are you banging your head against the wall for no reason? Or do you have a jackhammer in your hand and it might hurt, but man, you're going to tear it down? So, and it's funny, I said jackhammer. It's probably like sledgehammer. There's the word. But right, like, I don't think I can pick up a jackhammer. But yeah, pain doesn't have to be a bad thing. Pain can be a good thing, or pain can be a bad choice. Which is it? And really being that, looking, is this a good choice? Is it the bad choice? But pain in and of itself doesn't mean you should always stop.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny, I always use the analogy of over the last couple of months of a roller coaster ride, but I guess it's not really an appropriate term, because you think, I feel like that terminology is used all over the place, but roller coaster ride is, I mean, for anyone that wants to go on them, is fun, right? We talk about the ups and downs, but a roller coaster ride is a fun time, but it's definitely been a struggle to make this decision that I've made personally. And I think it comes back to realizing why you started doing something and deciding if that still is in alignment with where you want your life to go. So if, for me, I went into accounting because logic and things adding up and making sense is like innate in me. And that's just like something that's very satisfying for me. And then going into the field of accounting, I was exposed to a lot of people who were similar to me. And I think having that, realizing that it wasn't just about the job, it's also about the people, really like solidified that it was a good thing for me, and it was where I wanted to be. And so even though I wasn't thrilled with where I was or what exactly was happening in my career when I left Long Island, the core of it was that I still enjoyed what I was doing and I still wanted to do that. And truly, I had to like unpack it. I had to really like dig through the whole thing and, figure out if that was actually where I wanted to be. And I've now, having worked with the podcast and everything, it's like a new passion for me, but it's not my only thing. So I've realized that, similar to you, I have two things that I'm very passionate about and I want to be a big part of my life. So I feel like sometimes, like you said, you get into this world of, and this happened to me, coming into the podcast world and the coaching world. That's what happened. It was kind of like you saw all of these people letting go of corporate to go and start their own business or do this thing. And that was just the narrative that you heard over and over and over again. So I'm hearing this and I'm going, well, maybe this is like the freedom everyone's talking about. And this is like the answer to everything. And this is the solution. And I really had to like dig deep and realize that like, that's the solution for some people, but not for me. For me, I need multiple things in my life that are going to fill my cup. So, and for me, I came to the conclusion that was both being a professional in the accounting world and hosting this podcast and being in this creative environment as well.
I could definitely add some commentary to the thought of stepping into a leadership position, whether it be literal, like you're a manager that's new for the first time, you're a business owner that's new, what you two are doing as influencers, because you're interviewing and you're putting that information out there in a podcast. So now you're an influencer. You're influencing people's thoughts. That's leadership. And there's because we've taught a lot about leadership in the hairdressing industry. There's a very conscious thing you must do when you know you're influencing or leading. And by the way, everyone is an influencer and a leader. So newsflash, this is for everybody. But as you're transitioning into that, you really have to be self-reflective that you're not only serving yourself. And an easy example I'll give to my to like a kid would be, hey, you're in charge of this game. To be a leader, the goal is for everyone to have fun. Because you think the goal is to win, right? When you're a leader, you think the goal is to win, but it's not to win. When you're playing a game, the goal is for everyone to have fun. And so when you're influencing, you have to be very careful. Is your goal saying, be like me, right? Which is a slippery slope. Or is your goal to say, ask great questions, be your best self, try hard? What is your goal? And you have to come back to the why. Read Simon Sinek's book. It starts with why. That's how you get a following. That's how you become an influencer that matters. So you could be influencing 5 people. You could be influencing 5 million. You still have to be very careful, because with that influence is power. And that power, just like where you spend your money, we talked about it earlier, that power, at least in my professional opinion, which isn't professional, my personal opinion, that power has to be for the internal good, period. It has to be for the betterment of the soul, for the person, for your community, for your environment. that has to be in there. If the only goal is money or popularity, then when you do make those mistakes or you have those embarrassing moments or things don't work, you're not going to have any foundation to bounce back off of. It's not going to work long run, like long term. You know, we learn, people that listen to podcasts, especially in the business world, we learn a lot about, you know, click funnels and growing your influence and your email list and your Facebook and your Instagram or TikTok or whatever, LinkedIn, whatever world you're in, right? You learn a lot about growing this influence. And I think there's value there that we can't count our success that way. So, you know, if I have 100 followers on Instagram and 20 people like it, then it doesn't sound like it's very good. But if you were to say, Paula, you have 20 people that you positively impacted today, well, that feels pretty nice. So what filter are you looking at your success through? Now, sometimes it needs to be financial, right? Like you got to buy milk. You know, so that financial is an okay filter. I don't want to, financial is absolutely an okay filter. I want it to be known. I would like to make more money. Please buy things from me, right? But if my why underneath we're doing it aligns with yours, then you're going to be more generous with your money with me. You feel good about putting it there. And that propels a business. It's a bit more grassroots, you know, so it's like a snowball effect as opposed to just like, you know, shotgunning it and it being an overnight success. But I'm pretty sure the quote is something like every overnight success took 20 years. You know, so give yourself some patience and some time, a little grace.
Yeah, we all need that, definitely. And I think that's so true. Like, and I think it's hard to understand too from the outside looking in. Like, there's definitely a lot of people in my life that look at ventures that I pursue, like, what the heck is she doing now? Like, what is she doing? Like, girl, like, just get it together. And I'm like,
I'm living my life. I'm living my life.
Exactly. I'm like, I am taking this time where I'm going to be home anyway. Like, I left corporate for a reason. I'm taking this time now while I'm a student again, while I'm pursuing a graduate degree, to do all these other creative things because I can and I want to. And this like brings me joy. And if it brings me money too, then great. Like, that could be something I can build off of. And maybe I don't go back to corporate someday. And maybe I get a graduate degree that I never used, whatever. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But like, it just being able to give yourself that flexibility and grace and step aside, like pull yourself out of society for a second and understand again, like why you do the things that you do and who you are, and know what you know and say what you feel. Like Martha Beck said this. I was listening to something of hers earlier this week. She's a Harvard graduate, 3-time Harvard graduate, I believe, best-selling author. And she says, you know, when you step into your truth and you know what you know and you say what you mean and you feel what you feel, that's when you unlock all the good things in the world. That's when you become aligned. And that is so true. Like, it's so, so true. If you just allow yourself to start doing the things that you intrinsically know are true to you and you want to be doing, everything starts falling into place. And it's so strange to see that happen for the first time because you're like, this is weird. Like, something happened yesterday. I'll share at probably another time because I want it to happen before I speak on it. But texting Katie last night, I'm like, I literally have been saying this for months. Like, I told you this was gonna happen. Like, and now it's happening. Like, this is crazy. Like, how is this happening? And I don't really feel that I've been doing much to directly influence these things happening in my life. But in turn, it's like whenever I meet with accountability groups and people that know what I have going on, they're like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Like, you're taking those actions, and it may seem like nothing to you because you love it and it's aligned and you're enjoying it. But you genuinely, like, if you didn't do this, that wouldn't happen. If you didn't do this homework, like, you wouldn't have gotten this opportunity. If you didn't connect with this person, you wouldn't have had that opportunity either. So just being able to understand the impact of your actions is important too as you go through anything in your life. I think that ties this all together is like, you are an impactful person. You're in the world, you're on this side of things, you're interacting with others, and you're finding yourself along the way. You're having an impact in some capacity or another, whether that be, at a global level or in your household level. It doesn't matter. Like, you are responsible for how you show up in the world every day, and being able to be aligned in your joy and your truth while you're showing up for people in different ways is so important. So I think you do a good job at that, Paula, and we're
Oh,
just
thank
getting to
you.
know you. But thank you so much for
Well,
joining us today and just being so vulnerable and having this conversation. I think your journey has been so interesting, and just everything from your professional life to your personal life and parenting and what you're doing with business now. It's very inspirational. So I hope that our listeners can really resonate with your work and the things that you've been through. And if you could just tell everybody where to find you, the best way to connect if you are looking to connect with Paula.
yeah,
We'll link to everything in the show notes too, of course.
for sure. I truly believe, and we could take, you'll take my answer as a little bit of business advice as well. You've got to be available wherever your consumers are. And
Mm-hmm.
so it would be easiest for me to tell you to follow me on Instagram. We're called Inclusive Books, right? Because I'm really comfortable with Instagram. I would love to grow that following. So yes, do that. But there's some people out there that Instagram's not their jam. So I also have a Facebook page. It's called Inclusive Bookshop. I'm online, inclusivebookshop.com. If you're an email girl, put your email right in there. I'd love to connect with you that way. So I'm available. You look at the easiest ways to find me, of course, are going to be Instagram, Facebook, and email. And Paula Henson, also, like, my personal page is Paula is Queen, if you want a weird little snapshot into my life. I have a third passion, which is I want to be a farmer one day. So there's an Instagram page called the Henson Homestead. Like, we have all these things. But what I'm really looking to, like, engage and promote in the world of transitions, which is what your podcast is all about, is that transition into being a parent and that amazing opportunity that we have to learn. And that's the Inclusive Bookshop. So if you're a hairdresser, it's Cool Beauty Consulting. If you're in the parenting world, it's Inclusive Bookshop. Google will lead you to me. Type it in right there. The show notes will pass. And I really want to thank you guys for your time today. And I got to point out one thing that's really exciting that's happening with the three of us right now is we're three very different entrepreneurs with different passions on a podcast celebrating each other. And that is where the power comes in. And that is how you fight the resistance that comes from loved ones. Instead of defending yourself, just go out there and celebrate others and celebrate them. And you're going to find, just like you were mentioning, that passions will align, that the right people will come into your life. Keep trying, keep putting the hard work in there. And if you're looking for a support group, I'm sure you can find it within the comments thread here. And I'm sure you can find it on all of our Instagram and all of our Facebook pages. Everyone is looking to connect with like-minded individuals. And that's all we're really doing in life. And that's all we're really doing with our businesses. So push your money into those types of places. Spend with people that feel like you. And I want to just thank you, ladies, again for this wonderful opportunity to connect with others. This is exciting and makes me want to work on the business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's why we do this. We want to be connecting with like-minded individuals, and just being able to have the opportunity to put work like this out in the world and help somebody else from something that fuels our passion and gives us energy anyway. Like, why wouldn't we do it, right? So anyone who's listening who's like, I want to build a business, but I don't know what to do, like, tap into those passions, girl or guy or whoever you are, like just got to figure out who you are and start there, and then worry about the business later. It all comes. So again, thank you so much for your time today, Paula, and we'll be talking to you soon. But for everyone who's listening, just follow along on the show notes for anything you need information wise from today's episode. We have a lot of things coming up as far as coaching programs and new directions for the podcast. So definitely stay tuned and subscribe here. Reach out to us, wherever you find us, Instagram, Facebook, wherever else, Twitter, LinkedIn. and we're happy to connect. But thanks everyone for spending your time with us today, and we'll hear from you soon, hopefully.